Hello everyone, welcome to the Tea Crane and welcome to my miseya. This is the place where all the preparations happen for the tea ceremony, and in today's video I want to show you different ways of how to prepare the tea caddy. As you know, we put the tea powder, the matcha that we use during the tea ceremony, into a lacquer tea caddy when it is for use for thin tea, for usucha. And these lacquer tea caddies, they come in different shapes, and so based on the different shapes that we use, also the way that the tea powder is put into the tea caddy can differ. And so I have a few different shapes of tea caddies here, and this time round I want to show you the different ways of putting in the matcha into the tea caddy. Now, first of all, I want to see if you remember what these things are. These little rakes, or things that look like rakes, are actually made from an old tea whisk. And in a previous video you can see how I make these rakes, and you can actually very easily do this at home. And these rakes are very important because these rakes are used to modify and shape the tea powder in the tea caddy, and I will be using this today. So it's very important, if you don't have any of these and you want to try shaping the tea powder in your tea caddy, then first you will have to go and make one of these rakes. So if you don't have any, the link to the video is in the description below, so you can find the video there, go and have a look at it first, and then come back to this video. So these are these bamboo rakes that we use. So here I have taken the 4 tea caddies that I want to introduce out of their boxes. The boxes are over here. Each box always has, or most of the time has, a paper box to keep the wooden box safe in, and you can also see that the cords here are different. Each kiln or each pottery region or each potter individually chooses his own color or style of cord and always uses that for his boxes. So it's a way of indicating who made it or where it was made, besides the inscription on the box itself, and of course the item that is included in it. So now here we have 4 tea caddies, and the first one here is a very interesting shape. Of course the tea caddy itself is very beautiful and pretty as well, but the shape is called a fubuki, and a fubuki means snowstorm. The snowstorm, it's gotten its name snowstorm basically because the sides of the tea caddy are straight, the bottom and the top are flat, and the edges are beveled. And because of this similar shape on top and bottom, if you hold it in a snowstorm and you try to figure out which one is top and which one is bottom, the shapes are so identical that you can't identify which the top and which the bottom is. So in a snowstorm you wouldn't know the top of the bottom, and that is why this tea caddy is called snowstorm. The other tea caddy here, the next one that I have, this one is more in the regular shape of a natsume. This is more of a shape that is regularly available. So I will take this tea caddy as the standard from where to begin with laying out and inserting the matcha in the tea caddy, and how we do it in our school, the Enshu school. Opposed to this one is another caddy that is broader. This is the hira-natsume, basically means the flat natsume. The characteristics of the hira-natsume are that the height is lower than the dimensions of the width, so it's wider than it is high. When inserting the tea powder in the natsume, for example, well, let's begin with this one, let's begin with the natsume, then what we do is we create a mountain, like this. When we do that same thing in a hira-natsume, we don't want it to be as pointy, because if the mountain is pointy, it will get higher up. So we want it to be a bit more beveled. So it's a gentle curving hill as opposed to a steeper mountain. And then there is this type of tea caddy, which is a nakatsugi. The characteristics of this tea caddy is that the lid, the height of the lid, is the same height as the body that is visible, and the top and the bottom are flat, and it's absolutely straight on the edges. Also the kagari here, we have the same kind of kagari here on these other caddies as well. This is to fit the lid on. This one is higher, and so there's also more space to make nice designs on these. And so in these types, because it's taller, we also do that with narrower ones. They require the tea to not put in like a mountain, also not like a more gentle hill, but actually these require to be the most steep. And what we would do is to make a very steep mountain ridge from edge to edge, and I will show you how we do that, but we'll begin with the regular natsume first. Just one more thing before we get into putting the tea in the caddies. Let me introduce you to my toolbox. This box is a special toolbox for handling matcha. The bottom compartment, and this is almost always standard available in any preparation chamber, in any mizuya for tea ceremony. So the bottom compartment here has these things which help the tea to be put into the tea caddy. And if we, for example, use it on this tea caddy, then the larger one is put onto it, and this wider area allows us to put the tea in, and it will and then it will fall through this hole into the tea caddy. And this will already actually make a mountain, because it all falls in the center and then rolls off to the sides. So it will also already create a mountain in the tea caddy, but we do finish it off with our little bamboo rake. So that's the bottom compartment. This one is not for the tea caddy. This one is actually to be used in a tea flask, of which the tea flask is a pottery tea flask, and I can refer you to my other video that I made about the tamamizu tea flask for an example of what a tea flask looks like and what it is. And so the mouth of the tea flask is narrower, and for that we want to use these narrower touts. And then let me show you the top compartment here. In the top compartment we have several things. A feather. This feather is used to clean the inside of the tea caddy. So also after we have prepared the inside of the tea caddy, well, with our bamboo rake, then after having used the bamboo rake, we use the feather to clean the inside of the tea caddy more. And of course we also need several types of spoons. So these are our vital tools that we use when preparing a tea caddy. So I have the matcha in the tea caddy. Now I'm going to prepare the tea caddy so it is ready. And I have used this to put the tea through. And so you see that it has gathered already in the middle. Now, when I use my little bamboo rake, I'm going to, from towards myself to the center, push the matcha up so it forms a beautiful mountain. And you can see that it's about 80% full. So we try to fill the tea caddy up for about 80% so that there is enough in there for several brewings. And we don't really want to just include only what we need. but to really fill it up, so to say, it's ready. So we don't just add a little bit because we're only going to make 1 or 2 bowls. No, even if we're making 1 bowl, we would take our sieved matcha powder. So first we would sieve the tea, and if you want to know more about how to sieve tea and what you can use to sieve your matcha, then check out my other video on sieving tea, because that's also very important. You want to sieve your matcha before you use it, and then you take your sieved tea and put it into your tea caddy. Of course, your tea caddy is not to keep your matcha in. It's not a safekeeping container. You would return the matcha after you've used it for your tea ritual or your tea ceremony. You would return it back to the can in which you keep it for safekeeping. So now I'm going to fine-tune this mountain a little bit. And you see how I with my right hand just make the same motion over and over, and with my left hand I rotate the tea caddy, and doing this I try to make even sides all the way around the mountain. And you can see it's a slightly steeper mountain. Then when we're ready, of course don't want to waste any delicious matcha, and we're going to rotate it again and slightly tapping it with our middle finger, because this time we don't want to keep these lines in there. So we want to make sure that these lines are also dissolved. And then on the inside and on the outside there's still some tea powder sticking to the sides, and we want to make sure that that is also cleaned up. So we use our feather, or if you don't have a feather you might want to use a tissue of some sorts, or a brush to clean the insides. And so that is the mountain for the regular natsume. If you don't have a feather like the one that I used, you can always use a tissue, and you fold it in half, and then the folded side becomes the point, and you create a point like so. And then you want to fold this again like you're making a paper airplane, but that gives you a good point here to work with, and this point is very handy to clean the inside of the tea caddy like this. And you will get a very clean surface, and you can use your point to get right to where the tea begins. So you can measure it very clearly. And then you also want to clean the outer rim. So next up is our hira-natsume, our broad of beam tea container, and I was just tapping a little bit so to sink the tea and spread the tea out further, so that when it all falls through the center it neatly gets into the middle of the tea caddy. And now you can see, in comparison to our natsume, width here is broader and it's not that very tall, so you can't make a very steep mountain. You have to make a very broad, flat mountain. And again, we are going to use our rake, and from our side to the center, again rotating the tea caddy. We make this same motion with the right hand, rotate it with the left hand, and you see we become a flatter mountain, because also the distance from the rim to the center is different. Then let's tap again to even it out, and then we use our feather or a tissue again to clean the sides of the tea caddy. The purpose of this, of course, is to make it look appealing, make it look nice for when you present it to your guests. If we want to compare this then to our natsume, so you see that the natsume is a bit steeper and the hira-natsume is a bit flatter. So that becomes the major difference between these two caddies. And now we have one more caddy to go, the nakatsugi. Now, on a side note, you've probably been wondering, why did I bring out this fubuki, this snowstorm tea caddy? Not because the way we put the tea inside is different. It's basically the same as the natsume, but it has a very interesting story, so I thought I'd also share that with you. So I've also inserted the tea powder in the nakatsugi tea caddy, and now I'm going to, as you see, make a very steep mountain, bring these edges up. I'm going to do it in one straight line across the body of the caddy. I'm going to take a few tries because of course we want to make sure that the line is in the center, and both sides should be just as steep. And you also want to make sure that the ridge is running across the middle at the height almost of the caddy itself. And you also want it to be absolutely straight. Then we would also use our feather to clean the edges, or we would use a tissue. And now we might gently tap, but we don't want to tap it too harshly because then our mountain will fall down. And now let me show you the difference between all three. So the taller, narrower tea caddies, they require a single rim or a ridge of a mountain in the center of the tea caddy. The broader ones, the hira-natsume, that are broader than they are tall, they require a more flat surface. So it's a more gentle, beveled hill kind of mountain shape. And the natsume, that one requires just a regular Fuji kind of mountain in the middle of the tea caddy, and it's all the way around. So these are the three basic shapes of how we in the Enshu school like to tidy up our tea caddies, and for that we always use these bamboo rakes. And another very helpful tool is of course this feather. I would say go ahead, give this a try for yourself. Let me know in the comments how you fare, or if you have done this before and if you found it difficult or if you enjoyed doing this. Me personally, this is a moment before the tea ceremony to think about what the tea ceremony is going to be, how you want to serve your guests, and it's just a mindful thing to do, a peaceful thing to do before you get ready for the tea ceremony. So give it a try, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and also click the bell, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in my next video.